Okay, the E-2 is the non-immigrant investor visa. In order for the E-2 to be possible, there must be a treaty between the United States and the home country of the foreign national that's applying for the visa. For example, between the United States and Canada, we have the North American Free Trade Agreement. The U.S. has trade agreements with most countries in the world, and many of these have a provision for this type of investor visa. But one of the first things that is important to do is to check and make sure. You could spend an awful lot of time and find out that we meet all the qualifications except, oh, there's no treaty in place with our particular country. So the first requirement is to have the appropriate treaty in place between the foreign country and the United States. And then the business enterprise needs to also have the nationality of that same country. And what that means is merely that at least 50% of the ownership of that business must be held by nationals of that same country. It's possible to have a partnership of 50-50 with a U.S. citizen or a national of a different country, but you must have at least 50% ownership in the home country. The next requirement is it must be a substantial investment that you are making. And unfortunately, there is no definition of exactly what is substantial. Typically what the State Department or the Immigration Service, if you process through USCIS, what they're looking for is that you have invested enough money that you are going to stay engaged and involved in developing that business. They don't want people just putting in a little bit of money to see if something works and walking away from it if it looks like it's going to get hard. They want you investing money in capital and then building wealth here in the United States. So how do they evaluate whether this is a substantial investment or not? They typically look at the total cost of the business or the enterprise that you are buying into. If it's, say, a computer repair shop, you're not going to need a whole lot of overhead or a whole lot of capital. If the amount that you need to invest to launch this business is a relatively low amount, then you will have to be investing 100% of that amount. In other words, investing 20% of a business that only costs $100,000 total is probably not going to fly. That would not be substantial. So if your business is only valued at maybe $100,000, you pretty much will be needing to invest that whole amount yourself. On the other hand, if you are investing into, say, a factory that's worth $5 million, you might be able to invest with a very small percentage of that total amount. So it's a sliding scale depending on the total value of the business. We typically suggest a target of investing at least $100,000, but I have successfully gotten E-2s approved for half of that amount. And of course, we have many investors that have much more than that involved in their investment.